All right, so we're going to continue learning about Pesach and a little bit about the significance of what Pesach is. So there are two things that the Bible says not to touch on Pesach. They are called so'or and chametz. So'or is something that makes something rise, like put in bread rise or whatever you call it. Like it's called, I think the actual term, which people probably never heard of, is leaven. We spoke about before, but that doesn't help much. So that's one type of thing. And the other type of thing is chametz. Chametz is like bread or something that was not made with great care so that it shouldn't expand and get from the and get into the definition, become to this definition that's called chametz. The general rule is it can't be 18 minutes. From start to finish, it should be done, the matzah, unless you're working it. That's a general rule. The deeper work say that means a person, as long as he's working on himself, he doesn't become this element that's called chametz. The Ari says that the stuff that makes the bread become bread, that this leaven agent or whatever you want to call it, that's worse than the bread because it makes actual things. It makes things worse. He said chametz is just this different element. The element of chametz is the element of it's the bread. It's also bad, but like the thing that makes it is even worse. And then you have these the terms. It's used in the two different ways. So basically, there are two different types of evil inclination which we have to overcome, right? So we have these two things. That's what the Zohar says. One of them is the masculine element, and the other is the feminine element. Okay, what does that mean? So Rabbi Nassan of Breslov explains. He says you have the masculine element is the part of a person pushing him to sin or to do something he knows is really not so, act shady. Very often the Yetzer Hara, we'll talk about this later a little bit, he tries to make a person think that this is a mitzvah, great idea, do this, even though it's not a good idea, like Rabbi Nachman says, watch it, be careful. This the evil inclination in a person, his tendency to do bad, his animal soul can push him to do all sorts of things in all sorts of different ways until he figures out that no, actually this is not a mitzvah, I'm not helping someone with this, I'm just trying to help my lower self, this is not a good thing. Very often it's hard to see that, it's hard to understand that at the time. And then there's the aspect that's called the feminine aspect of the evil inclination. That's the aspect where a person, after he falls, he's like, oh, why should I bother? It's like kind of passive, but he like gives up. And Nassan says that's actually in a way worse because once you give up, you can't get yourself back together. He said, really, no matter what you did, no matter how much a person could have failed or acted incorrectly and acted badly, you can always fix everything. He said, and sometimes God will send it in an easy way. Even easy, and you want to fix, you're waiting however long it is, and suddenly God can send you something that's easy. Rabbi Nachman has a parable about this. He said a person's fighting in a war. He said suddenly he could do something. He saved the general's life. He could do some heroic act that to him at the time it was like a very quick choice, and it had tremendous repercussions. And he gets promoted. He becomes of the highest rank because he saved the whole army or whatever he did. He says the same thing. God sends us opportunities. It's not too hard to fix. We just have to hold on. So this is the two elements of what makes the bread and this element of what became this aspect called chametz. It was something that wasn't cared put into it. It took longer. It was able to rise, or it was able to become whatever this aspect that's called chametz is. And in general, a person has to remember that the 18 is chai, which means life. We have to have vitality and life. The minute you have vitality and life, that means you're working on your negative aspects. And Pesach is when we, again, like we said before, you take this kind of vaccination for the whole year to be able to work on the negative and channel it properly. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the Seder. The first thing you need to know about the Seder is a beautiful parable that I always share. It's incredible. Just to give you a little concept. Imagine someone who's in the airport. And, he doesn't really know the way to different offices. Very often they're in weird places or different stores. He doesn't know where he's going. He has to do certain things, and he meets someone and he asks them, "What about this? What about that? How do I do this? How do I do that?" Whatever it is he wanted to do. And the guy's like, "Yeah, well, this, the VIP lounge, you can go here and you can do this, and if you do this, if you go that way, you get a discount." He has all these different. He seems to know the airport like the back of his hand. And as he's talking to this guy, he gets more and more amazed. He's like, wow, this guy's must be a real jet setter. He knows the airport so well. He must fly I don't know how often. Incredible. He knows the whole airport. So he said, wow, how often have you flown? He's like, well, I've never actually flown. I'm just a janitor here, so I know the whole place back and forth. She's like, you've never flown. Okay, so very nice that you know the technicalities in the airport, but you know nothing. And it's the same thing with the Seder. On the Seder, you have the matzah, you have the maror, you have all these different, like the bitter herbs, you have the wine, the cups, you have all this stuff. If you don't fly in the Seder, you know nothing. It's like you're supposed to take off. It's not just about, oh, I ate this, and it's like a cultural thing. That's not what it is. A person's supposed to literally take off and go to the highest place. There was a miraculous light. We wanted to leave Egypt. We had to get out. We had incredible miracles. Also inside that, we had the gumption to just, the chutzpah, you know, the brazenness, to just say, okay, I'm going to do this. What God said I'm going to do, I'm going to wait for redemption, I'm going to do everything that He says. Those people had that nerve. They got out. Everyone else, it wasn't so simple. Like we have to get to that. So getting out took a tremendous influx from on high, and that's what happens at Seder. Every Seder we get back in the supernal worlds. The same things are happening, and we get back this ability to just get out and take off. Now, after that first day of Pesach, we have to kind of earn it. We have to get it back. Then we sort of lose that special light, and then we're able to earn it and get it back in the next 49 days until Shavuot, the time when we receive the Torah. That's already its own topic. And maybe we'll have a discussion about that as well. But for now, we're on Pesach, and Pesach is this idea of taking. You literally have to take off. So the Arizal explains that on Pesach, you are going to the highest place. He said, generally speaking, when you have a Jewish holiday, he said, every Jewish holiday, you have this element when you go to this one particular place. He says there's two different aspects in the first level of advancement. One is called katnus. Katnus means like this diminished aspect, where a person is, he's in a diminished place. It's considered to be an immature, totally immature. Then you have a person who gets to, his bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah, or whatever it is, and then they start to think a little more. They have at least some ability to reason out and think and understand consequences of their actions. Maybe not all the way, not enough like an adult, but it's not the same as a 9-year-old. If you talk to a 13-year-old, even a 12-year-old, if more mature, you can already talk to the person can understand where you're coming from, and the older they get, the more they're able to understand, the more things become clearer to them, and they have what we call das, this idea of applied knowledge, and they can really, you don't, there's a certain point where you don't, I'll give it an obvious example. You have a 3-year-old, right? Your 3-year-old, sees a bowl of grapes on the table. He jumps on the table, runs to the bowl. You might have guesses, like takes the grapes. Like there's no reason to educate the child and say you may not, don't go on the table. The kid's gonna know not to go on the table. Just take him down. He doesn't have the understanding to really get it. You can tell him, you really don't go on the table. That's something he's going to outgrow as he gets older. That's not what's going to happen. That's not where he's going to be. And the same thing when a child gets older, he starts to have other challenges. He's not going to go climb on the table, presumably, to take the grapes or to do whatever. He's not going to do. He'll have other antics, and slowly but surely gets older and older and more mature, more and more understanding. 20 is a different level, 40 is a different level. Every person, as they get older, they start to understand things better and deeper. So it's the same thing. In terms of these levels, we have something that's called Katnus Aleph and Galdus Aleph, right? Diminishment, number 1, and expansiveness, number 1. This element of being, this literally means big or great, more greatness. The person has more greatness, more maturity. Gadol also literally means to the person who's mature, who's already older. Right? This is what we call someone who's gadol. He's already big enough to understand the consequences. Usually it's from bar bat mitzvah, is this gadol. That's the first level. Then you have a second level where the person, as he gets more mature, maybe from 18, maybe from 21, whatever the ages are. From 30, a person already gets a little more understanding. Everyone according to where they're holding and how much they mature. People, life experience, it doesn't mature them so much. Some people more, even younger, they're more mature, but that's a general rule. So usually when you're dealing with a Jewish holiday, you get, diminishment number 1 is like during the week. You're dealing with your own little things. And usually that means the person's thinking about himself. Even in divine service. Even if you want to help someone, you want to pray, or you want to learn Torah, or you want to do a Seder, or whatever it may be, you're going to do, you're preparing for it, you want to. It's very often, this level of this katnus, this diminished state, a lot of what a person is doing has to do with himself. He's thinking of himself. He's thinking, It's about me, my divine service, my this, my that. It's all about him. My repentance, my restitution, it's all him. So this idea usually on a Yom Tov, on generally speaking, on a holiday, you get to this place that's called Gadlus Aleph. This element of Gadlus Aleph means the person gets to a place where he starts to say, wow, God is really great. He's not thinking about me and mine anymore, like a child. You talk to a child, he doesn't have the most developed understanding of, it's hard for him to be really altruistic. It's hard for him to really connect to God in a mature way. Someone's already older, even from already bar mitzvah, even a teenager can already get it at a different level. It's possible. Not always easy, but it's possible. So that's usually Yom Tov. You already get, you're not like so little in it, you're not so diminished. You get, everyone according to their level, everyone dealing with the things that are more challenging for them. We all have things which we're very strong in. They don't necessarily need so much help. We need help for the things which we're weak in. So the things we're weak in, usually we're in this place where it's about me, and I can and I can't, and I this and I that. And on Yom Tov, you get this first level number one. Gadlus Aleph here. You have the matzos, that's on this side, and the cups on this side. So this is diminished one. This is Gadlus one, big, already older, more mature number one. On Pesach, we get a completely different levels. We get Katniss 2. We get diminished number 2, where a person, again, he gets to a place where, like we said, you can be from 13, but still a teenager compared to an older person, he's higher than before. He gets it more, but like when you're 15, 16, hopefully you're not going to stay in a place where you're 13. When you're 18, hopefully you're not going to stay in a place where you're 13. You can vote when you're 18. You still might be immature. Maybe that's not wise. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm not getting involved. I'm just saying the person has the capacity at least to get higher, and hopefully he has a higher understanding. Then you have someone who's even older, whatever, 20 or 21, and then 40, whatever the ages could be of a person. He has a place of where he really, he sees the big picture. That's in terms of the cups, and this is in terms of the wine, right? This is in terms of the cups of wine, and this is for the matzot. Right? These are the two different things. We'll see the Shemus, the divine names we'll talk about. But just in general, we have to know that when you're dealing with, in the beginning, when you first start in your Kiddush, you're going to a higher place, a place you don't get to pretty much any holiday. Now, Shavuot, again, like we said, you're receiving the Torah, you get an even higher level. But that's only because of the Seder, plus the whole 49 days of the Omer. So it's like kind of building on Pesach. But Pesach, we want to leave the lower levels, this level of diminished consciousness. So when we make Kiddush, we don't even think about this. Usually you build the house, you have to have the first story, right? The second story, third story, fourth story, right? That's how you do. You can't build the house first, the second, or third, and certainly not the fourth. So it's the same thing. A person has to deal with, he first really has to deal with his animal soul and dealing with things that are just simple, pulling him in every direction, getting things together. That's usually how it works. And quite the contrary, the animal soul is what holds him back very much, because he's involved in whatever he's involved in. His mind's on whatever his mind's in, and he's just not in a place where he's holding by really connecting in a spiritual way. When there are things that are distractions, they keep us from being really connected and being who we really are. A person wants money. He needs money. That's true. The minute money becomes his whole life, there's no spiritual development happening there. He's a hollow shell that's pretty much filled with money, and just say you want money. Well, that's fine. You're never going to get as much as you want. And generally speaking, if you want money, when you have 100, you want 200. When you have 200, you want more. When a person has millions of dollars, he wants billions of dollars, because he has a broader view and understanding of the value of money. Chametz represents money. That's one of the things it represents, as Rav Natan says. So money, it's not a simple thing to deal with. A person has his character defect. When it fills him up, he really, again, we're talking about getting out of this diminished state, the smallness of the person's smallness now. So it's not easy to do. So the first thing on Kiddush, we don't think about that level. We skip it. We take the higher level, these levels of much, much higher places. We don't think about that level number one of just me. You just forget about it, because you can't deal with it now. You're going to deal with it by bringing in much higher light. So the first thing you have to remember is this element of that God is great. You have to get to that on the spot. That has to do with just for the holiday. And then you get to this place of tremendous this realization that you really, on the one hand, I don't have any, I am so far. You start to see how much I have so far to go. But you also feel this great trust in God that things are going to be coming in. That's called the diminishment number 2. The names associated with the diminished number 2 is called achadat. you take the Shem Elokim. We'll show this on the screen. Well, you take the Shem Elokim, Aleph, Lamed, Hey, Yud, and then Mem, and you switch each of those letters to the letter before it. What's the letter before Aleph? Aleph is the first letter. There is no letter before Aleph, so you stick with an Aleph. Then you have a Lamed. The letter before Lamed is Chaf. That's more mercy and more kindness. Then Elokim usually is the name that's associated with justice, like we were saying before. We were speaking about when we talk about chametz. Elokim, right, is a numerical value of hateva, which means nature. It's dealing with your nature again. So when you're dealing with this higher level of diminishment, this new level, this higher level, when you're already starting to see how far there is to go, you get to this place of this chaf, lamed is chaf, and then hey goes to dalet, yud goes to tes. And the en mem goes to a regular mem, and then switches back to an en mem. So you have aleph, chaf, dalid, and then tes, and then mem. Well, we'll show it on the screen. The numerical value of that is ayin dalid is the same as bitachon, which means, that's what Ari says, which means faith, applied faith, trust in God. So you get this level of trust, and then you get this tremendous influx. Called this godless base, the second level of unbelievable influx. Kiddush, that kills all the bad in your lowest states. So the first thing is a Kiddush, you think about, I'm going to get to this place of godless base, incredible, expansive levels where God just gives me this incredible gift, this deep gift of connection and of serenity. It's great serenity. That's what Kiddush is about. That's why it's Kadosh. And you completely, Kadosh means holy or separated. A person is able to get to this place where he's separated from the world. Again, usually Kiddush, you're just dealing with that level, that first level of godless, that first level of maturity. I'm going to stop thinking about, it's all about me. I'm going to move on to a level where the God is great. But here you go much higher. You get trust in God. You get this much higher level of this deep serenity and understanding, wow, God He's right there with you, and you're able to apply things, understand one thing from the other, and you're able to really go back and deal with your diminished state in just a little bit. That's exactly the idea. I can deal with it now. I'm going to start to deal with this diminishment. How will I do that? I would number one, first of all, I deal with, so again, this is the right side, this right side of, let's call it again, chacham, this element of serenity, in the level of the cups at least, because there's cups and this matzahs, and they parallel each other in many ways. So you're going to deal with the name associated with both of the gadlus here, both of this greatness, right? The lower one and the higher one is called the Shem Ab. Ab is 72, the 72 name. The 72 name is spelled out in a way that comes to 72. It's Yud Vav Daled, which is 20. Hey Yud is 15. Vav Yud Vav is another 22. And then Hey Yud is another 15. That's 72, which is a numerical value of Chesed, which is kindness, because to reach any of these levels is just a kindness from God. It's this level also, this side, the right side is very much this level of kindness. And we said about the Achadat. Those are the three names that we think about, especially the last two. The Achadat, right? This Elokim that's switched, right? This name over here, and the 72 name. Those are the things that happen here. That's where we're going, and it takes us to this incredible level so that we're going to be able to deal with our problems, right? Are things holding us back? That again, the thirst for money, all of these things. That's what we're going to do. I'm just going to mention one more thing. The one of the things we do again when you're checking for the chametz, two things we do. One thing, you have to check your pockets, and the Shloah says today, I don't know if you have to check your pockets because you put your clothing through the wash and nothing's edible anymore unless it's really big. Usually today that's what the codifiers say. Today, no one's gonna. Just make sure you wash your clothing. That's perfectly checked. You have to check for the useless crumbs that went through the wash. But you need or a jacket maybe that you don't often wash, or whatever the things that you might not have washed. You should check your pockets. And the deep works explain a person part of this element of chametz is checking also your actions, your activities in monetary areas, that they should be they should be upright, they should be proper, you shouldn't be cheating or crooked. And also the person should give charity like he should, be able to help other people, to think about money I need to be able to share. There's a story with one of the great rabbis of Eisel, Charif, he was called, that he once he saw there was a big miser in the town. He wanted to give him a little lesson, so he went over to him. He saw the guy. Everyone was emptying the pockets. They didn't have washing machines not too long ago, so they had to empty every pocket. So as he's emptying his pocket, he said, "Why are you emptying your pocket?" He said, "What do you mean? I have to remove chametz." He said, "Everyone knows you're only a Jew until your pockets." He said, "After your pockets, you're not kind. You're not. You need to learn how to change that." So he's like, the guy. I don't know how much he hacked him. I figured probably it's going to help. Maybe it did. I don't know. But one way or the other way, a person has to realize he has to be also good with his pocket, not to be this place of. People very often, they'll buy for themselves. They won't be able to help anyone else. And so Pesach is a very big time of helping and giving, and that's a very, very important part of our avodah Pesach. That's the first thing to be aware of. The second thing to be aware of is also you have to know that as you're checking for the chametz, you light a candle, you turn on the lights, whatever it is, you're looking for the chametz, you put out 10 pieces of bread, write down where you put them or where the other person put them so you won't lose them. You wrap them up in foil or a saran wrap or whatever it is, or his bags, and you put these 10 pieces of chametz out, because as you're looking for chametz, you're going to find, you have to know, I have plenty of things I have to deal with. And so when we get to Kiddush, we're past that. We're thinking a little bit about becoming better. And if you're looking at it this way in terms of money, we were speaking the last time we spoke about illicit thoughts, dealing with those. There's a lot of discussion we'll have. What is this chametz about? Actually, so there's many, many facets of what it is. So here we are in Kiddush, and we want to get to this place where we're above all this, above the littleness, the smallness that keeps us. Person's not willing to help another person, or a person's going to take a shortcut that's crooked or not right, or a person's going to act with arrogance. All of these things are relevant to what chametz is. We have to learn how to flood these parts of us with light. Flood it with light. Don't even deal with it. Just get this tremendous light and start to realize, there's a broad picture here. Okay, yeah, you want money, very nice. No, you start to realize, first of all, God is great. That's the first thing. That comes in from the holiday. Second of all, you have to trust in Him. Why would you be cool? What are you worried about? Okay, do things, of course. You have to. You can't do things in a way that's not balanced. Do things in a balanced, good way. Don't. You're not even allowed to give more than 20% of your wealth to the person, even if he wants to, because unless he has this tremendous trust in God, fine. But otherwise, he might. Who knows? Can he support himself? Will he be okay? That's so simple. So, but that doesn't mean those don't ever help anyone. You can throw money out for a coffee. You can't help someone else. Why not? In a good way, in the proper way. Then you have this. Then you have the higher aspect of after trust comes this really deep serenity and connection to God. That's when we get in this Kiddush, and then we're going to go back and we're going to completely wash out all the negativity, and then we'll slowly work on it throughout the 7 weeks of the Omer.